Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of Gen AI 101. In today's episode, we're going to talk about responsible AI. It's one of the most fastest growing topics in the areas of generative AI, and I hope to demystify it for enterprise AI use cases. In order to do that, I'm going to first break it down into three categories. So we're going to talk about responsible AI in three different categories of building a large language model and an application that actually consumes a large language model as well, right? So the first layer is the data layer. So this is the layer you prepare to train your large language model for it to perform the use cases that you want it to. The second layer is the model itself and the training process that you use to fine tune the large language model. And the third layer is the application layer. So we have the data layer, we have the model layer, and then we have the final application layer. And these three layers put together are your end outcome, give you the end outcome that you want out of the use case, right? In today's conversation, focus on how do you think about responsible AI on the data layer, and in subsequent videos, we're going to talk about how do you think about responsible AI in model and application layers respectively. So zooming in on the data layer, right? So this is basically you preparing data for your large language model to train on, and there are four specific things that you need to be considerate about when you think about responsible AI and getting your data ready in lines with responsible AI, right? The first thing is data correctness. I think this is very easily understood. The data has to be correct. You have to ensure that you prune the data, that you make sure it is correct and there is no incorrectness in the data itself. This is very obvious. Of course, more the correct the data is, more the large language model will be as good as how correct the data is. It's pretty simple, right? The second thing is on biases, right? Now, this is something that I talk about a lot with all of our customers and my CIO friends, etc. And I think the biggest impact you can have on the output of a large language model is making sure your data is bias free, right? So, and what is bias free? So bias is, of course, some very direct biases that, that can be easily seen. So for example, if I was to use a large language model to help screen resumes, I'd want to, take out names, locations, gender, all of those things from those particular resumes directly, right? Because there might be inherent biases in those things that might get caught by the large language model, right? But more than that, some of the biases are not, that is the second category of biases. Some of the biases are not that easily spotted. And, one example is, PIN codes. So everybody knows that there are specific PIN codes where you would have specific stratas of society living in, which can sometimes be used without anyone's intention, but that kind of can feed into the large language model, and a large language model might start just rejecting people based on PIN codes as well. And this is a kind of hidden bias that you should consider while you are doing any specific use case using Gen AI. Apart from these two, which is data correctness and data bias, there are two more things to be considered of. The third thing here is about data privacy. So when you are loading up the data to train your large language model, you have to ensure that it should be, you have to make sure that no specific privacy laws are breached. You don't put in any specific users or employees or customers' data into that. So you have to mask the data properly. So there are a lot of masking algorithms. We also use a lot of masking algorithms at Data AI. So you can use those masking algorithms to ensure that data does not have any PII or PHI at all in it, right? And the fourth is around copyright. So when you input your data for any large language model to train on, you have to ensure that you check who owns the data or who has copyright issues, who has copyright on that specific data, right? A lot of times, companies have come to me, like CIOs, CEOs, and even like other startups have come to me and discussed use cases around, how they can use their existing data to create a large language model to do things. But the fact of the matter is, some of those use cases are very hard to execute because a lot of time you don't own that data yourself. The data is still owned by the customer, right? So that is one nuance that I reckon all, and I urge all CIOs to think of when you evaluate any use case. So to sum all of this up, there are 4 things that you have to think about when you talk about responsible AI in the data layer of a Gen AI use case, right? The first thing is data correctness, of course. The second is bias in data. The third is data privacy issues in the data. And the fourth is your copyright, who owns the data. So will it create any copyright issues or not? So these are the 4 things that you need to think about. And if you cover all of these 4, I promise you, you have a good responsible AI solution at the data layer in this entire Gen AI. I'm looking forward to talking about the other 2, which is the model layer and the application layer in subsequent videos. Looking forward to see you again.